I'm playing catch up with some stuff I missed end of last year. So I suppose. Well, wait, when did this content launch? I'm talking about
was
the
like
Valhalla content
mid-December,
for God of War.
mid-December, beginning December.
So it's weird
I'm
because
not sure.
it's not that I had no intention of playing this, but that conversation we had about The Last of Us and just general discussions on social media about, The Last of Us is roguelite mode is behind a $10 paywall, but God of War released their own for free and it's better. A lot of people say it's a lot better. And I thought, I enjoyed God of War. Maybe let me just go check it out. Let's see what's going there. But more so for the fact that it turns out there was story behind this content. It wasn't just like, oh, hey, there's a roguelite mode. You can just go do stuff and that's that. It's like, oh, there's actual story beats that happen behind this roguelite mode. And that really interests me because if you've not finished God of War Ragnarok, maybe close your ears. But Kratos doesn't die, as many people thought would happen, because we knew it was the end of the Norse saga, and your immediate thought must be like, well, surely he's going to die, and then like Atreus is going to pick up the mantle, and that's a whole different story beat. But where this picks up is after the events of Ragnarok, and Kratos is just trying to still reconcile with his past, and he gets an invitation to, by past I mean like before God of War reboots, old Kratos from Sparta doing violent Kratos things. So he gets an invitation to Valhalla, which, if you know very loosely from Norse mythology, is a place where you go to do endless fighting, endless battle, whatever. And I think it's genius that old Sony Santa Monica thought, well, that sounds like the perfect setting for a roguelite, where we get Kratos to just do runs through Valhalla. It does the typical God of War thing where you have all your abilities and weapons unlocked, but your stats are reduced to 0. Or Kratos arrives, oh no, my power's gone. But that's
of course.
But
does he have amnesia too?
No amnesia this time, thank goodness.
Damn.
But it works obviously in the roguelite sense of, okay, you've stepped all your stats, but as you do each run, you get resources to do permanent upgrades, for example, upgrade your strength, defense, etc. And then where the roguelite mechanics really kick in is the fact that every time you do a run, you get to do a different build, or you get to spec out differently, which is a side of God of War I've never really engaged with. I mean, you've played both games, and it's sort of, which armor set gives me the best, for example, strength or defense. Oh, it happens to have this perk or this set of abilities that comes with it. Whereas, now it's got a thing of, okay, maybe I'm going to do a run with, say, the axe. Let me try to choose abilities that all spec and complement each other. So a good example is, I did a run last night where one of the first things offered to me was like, your precision throws do more damage, whatever. So it's like, okay, I need to throw my axe more. Further along the run, I get another ability. It's like, if you hold the aim button, the longer you hold it, the more damage it, like you build up a sort of damage buff. So you're doing more damage with throws. And eventually I started compounding all of these abilities that complemented each other, where I wasn't even running in to hit people. I was literally just standing back and throwing my axe and calling it back. And it was a lot of fun. Like, I think what surprised me most about this is that it's kind of hilarious how it's never crossed my mind, at least, for God of War to have a roguelite mode, but it makes so much sense given that the combat is fantastic. Like, I love God of War's combat. Anyone who's played it will know how good it feels to throw the axe, call it back, switch between different weapons. So yeah, on that front, absolutely loving it. But what surprised me is the story. It's surprisingly meaty. It's not just a thing of like, I don't know what I expected of. It's a free piece of content. Like, how much story can they actually expand on here? But I was saying to you before we started recording, it reminds me so much of Hades. In terms of how it's structured, things feel organic. Like, if you've played Hades, you'll do a run, you'll come back, you'll talk to people, and they'll talk to you contextually, like, oh, hey, you did this in your run, or hey, I've just got an update, so I've got new things to say to you. And this is doing exactly that, where it's Kratos and Mimir talking through the actual run itself. Mimir's with you, obviously. And then when you end the run, it's like, oh, there's people outside Valhalla's gates with updates talking to you. There's things that happen in Valhalla with each run that are contextual and story-based, like Kratos dealing with his past and whatever. And there's just some neat surprises as well. If you're a long-time God of War fan pre-reboot, there are callbacks to the original games. And I've played all of them, so it's very cool to see that brought into, like, from a modern perspective of like, oh shit, like, no spoilers, but like Kratos did this when he was a lot younger. Like, what a dick thing to do, but let's reframe it and look at it from an older Kratos perspective, and let's help him grapple with it. So it's been very surprising on that front, and I've just been having a fantastic time with it, and it's completely free. So love to see it.
Do you have any sort of indication of how like long it is? Because
so
Hades is quite long.
I've been playing. I'd say I've played maybe 6 or 7 hours. Like it's a fair bit. I mean, and I've to my understanding, I've finished like the content. Like I've reached the end of it in terms of the actual the run itself.
Like story.
No, not the story. The
run,
actual.
okay.
But the thing is, like now, like Hades, you're incentivized to keep replaying because you're unlocking new things. Like every time you finish a run, whatever, it like drip feeds you so much stuff. So when you first start playing, it's like, okay, you can't really unlock anything. Okay, you've reached a little bit further in your run. Now we're giving you resources to upgrade your strength and your defense. Okay, now you've reached a bit further in your run. Cool. Now we're going to give you perks with each run as you go through it. Okay, now you've reached even further. We're going to give you the ability to do other permanent upgrades. So it's very layered and there's a lot to do, but it is drip fed to you in a logical way. And yeah, just on the story front, it's been really fun. And I feel like at no point have I gone, oh, okay, I guess I've finished, the core gameplay content. I'm done. I'm going, no, I want to keep playing because I want to see how the story ends. Like I haven't reached its conclusion. So I'm definitely going to keep playing on that front.
And so are there like specific biomes, or is it just recycling areas from the main game and then you hit like a boss? Or
so it's clever the way they contextualize it. They say Valhalla makes you face like your own, like Valhalla is different for each person that enters it. So for Kratos, a lot of the areas are biomes from the God of War reboot. So if you're watching the footage now, I can't for the life of me remember. This isn't Midgard.
This is the Dwarven.
This is the Dwarven, yeah.
Dwarven area.
So
it's Svartalheim?
Yeah, or? So it cycles between different biomes randomly. And you'll get to a point where you do a fight. Think of it this way. The way it's structured is like there's an arena where you do a fight, and then there's an arena where you like choose your next path forward. Like your reward path.
Okay. Okay, so very similar to Hades in that when you sometimes get in those rooms and it's just got 3 doors and it's like, okay.
So it's
not a combat room,
No, so you essentially you do combat, you exit into like a safe area where there's either resources or whatever, and you can choose, okay, behind that door there's an upgrade, there's a new rune for my weapon, or I can go through that door and get like a health upgrade. And then you choose your door, and then typically which realm you're in, because that door, it's difficult to explain, but that safe room is based in a realm, and then when you go through the door, the combat will be in that same realm. Then when you exit to the next safe area, it's like a completely different random realm.
Okay, so if the safe area is like, for instance, now if you're watching the video, you're in Midgard.
Yeah, that's
then the combat will be in Midgard.
Yeah, so now it's like, okay, there's a door there with that reward, or there's a door there with that reward. And
then I'm assuming the areas they help like determine the sorts of enemies you're going to be fighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting because I thought you sort of start to see a pattern of like, oh, if I go through this door, I typically arrive in this arena and there's this enemy or this set of enemies. Okay. But they keep surprising me where it's never the same. Even like the last encounter, you think like Hades, oh, you fight old Hades himself, you beat him, and then like every time I fight him, it's going to be the same fight. And then after a while, it's like, oh no, he gets harder. Things change, whatever. And it's the same here. So there's incentive to keep playing. It's just, yeah, it reminds me so much of Hades, and that's a good thing. Like, I think they took some good lessons from there and they repackaged it in a God of War setting, and it works so well. Like, I absolutely cannot stop doing runs in this game mode.
Nice. Sounds great.
So
yeah, and it's free, so that's
absolutely
awesome.
free.
I do wanna get to it purely because, like, I was saying to you before the show, like the Last of Us and its roguelite mode is neat from a mechanical standpoint, but it is just a pure mechanical like mode. There's no narrative incentive to play it, and it's just there if you want to engage with the like stealth action.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm more inclined to play God of War because, like, I enjoy the story of these games. That's what interests me the most, even if the combat, especially in Valhalla. Was the second one called Valhalla?
No, Ragnarok.
The second game, Ragnarok. Yeah. Even if the combat in Ragnarok didn't like click with me in the same way that the first game did, I'd be more keen to give this a go just to see what it means for Kratos going forward.
Yeah, but even on the combat front, I think you might be surprised. I think it'll maybe be a bit better for you to be like, okay, I'm going to start a run. I'm going to focus specifically on the spear because I just like the spear, for example. And
the spear is cool.
Granted, you can change between weapons, but like you can completely build that you focus on one specific weapon. Like you can buff the shit out of. Like I've done the same with the spear. I've gone, well, maybe I want to just try to do ranged attacks with the spear, and you can. You often get perks where it's like, I think maybe there's stuff on the back end that's picking up what weapon you're starting your run with. It must be, because like often I'll start off with the axe and then I'm inevitably served perks for the axe. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing an axe run. And I've noticed it's kind of picks up what you do the first one or two arenas with, and then it starts drip feeding you stuff for that weapon. So you can kind of guard your own run as well from that front. So it's pretty cool. Very, very clever.
Okay.